Hello. So I'm here with my mom. I have a cold, so sorry my voice isn't that well. But we have a couple questions here that I've been getting asked, and I guess me and my mom are going to do our best to answer a couple of them. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Now the first question is, which cancer do I have? Now, some people may know this. I've talked about this in a previous video, but for anyone who didn't hear that, I have something called metastatic neuroblastoma. It's a cancer in the nerves, and I'm trying to find the best way to describe it. They found a tumor. Uh, Mom, can you help me here?
Yeah, I can help. So, neuroblastoma is a cancer of the nerves, the nervous system. It's typically found in little, like babies or kids under the age of 5. And so it was really unusual for Spencer to be diagnosed with this cancer about a month before he turned 13. So he was 12. And it's basically undeveloped nerve cells that that typically will continue developing even after you're born and become nerves, and then in some kids they don't develop and then they become cancerous, and that's what neuroblastoma is basically. So that's the kind of cancer that Spencer has, and Spencer, you said it was metastatic. Do you know what metastatic means?
I learned the definition once, and then I promptly forgot it. Doesn't that just mean tough to get rid of?
It is tough
It
to get rid
it
of.
comes back
Not
even.
necessarily. Metastatic actually just means that it's in one, more than one organ or part of your body.
Hmm.
So, um, Spencer had cancer. Maybe we should kind of talk a little bit about how we found it. Do you want to talk about that, and then I can tell you all of the parts of the body where we found it.
You're saying how I found it
Yeah,
or where I found it?
how did, one of your questions is, how did you learn you had cancer?
Okay,
Do you
well,
want to just kind of talk about the process that,
sure.
like what happened?
So, at home, I was just feeling achiness in my arms and legs. They'd usually go from limb to limb, and it's like you worked out that limb, and then it's sore afterwards. It felt like that, but it traveled, and I didn't know what that pain was from. So I did tell mom about it, and a bit later, I realized I had an enlarged lymph node in my neck, just right here. And when
It was
I,
kind of big. It was
yeah,
like, I want to say
a
almost the
marble.
size of an egg, like a small egg, like right under the clavicle area that kind of stuck out and was firm.
So uh, after not knowing what that was, I went to mom. We got that checked out. We went to a clinic, and they did some tests. They couldn't really find anything there,
It was a
but
pediatrician.
pediatrician, thank you. So they decided to have me do a a biopsy, uh, to take a bit of the lymph node to test it to see what they found. And I'm not exactly sure what they found. I don't think they really found anything. They were looking for a certain type of cancer, which I actually did not have. But after they tried a few more tests, I think one of them was even a bone marrow, didn't they? Or was that later on?
So that was a little bit later. So they did actually find a neuroblastoma with that sample. They didn't initially look for that because it's very uncommon in a 12, 13-year-old boy or girl. And so they really weren't looking for that. They were looking for lymphoma because it was in his lymph node. But they didn't find lymphoma. All the markers were pointing to neuroblastoma, which was a surprise to them, and they wanted some other tests to confirm it. So, um, just to kind of recap a little bit on that, we took him to the doctor on a Monday to have the lymph node looked at. We had an x ray and a blood test done that day. We had an ultrasound done the next day, which was the first day the doctor called and said maybe cancer. And none of those tests showed anything, so they sent it to specialists at um, the children's hospital closest to us. And they got us in by Thursday to biopsy the lymph node, which was really quite quick, and we're very grateful for that. But it took a week and a half after they took the sample to actually get the results, which in part is because they weren't looking for neuroblastoma. They were looking for other things. Okay, do you want to tell any more?
Sure, I'll just tell a bit more. So we didn't know he had cancer for a while, but when we found out, I guess Mom can tell her side of the story. Mom didn't tell me that I had cancer until they were 100% sure, though the doctors did tell Mom that they suspected that I had that type of cancer. So I was just sitting, doing my day-to-day thing when...
But by that time, it was interesting because he said that he had some pain in his arms and legs, but it was really random and it wasn't consistent. But once they took the biopsy, I think it just kind of flooded his system with, I don't know how to describe it. Somehow it like put his body on fire, and pretty soon everything hurt really, really bad, and he could barely walk, and kind of went from being able to walk with really no pain and no other symptoms other than an enlarged lymph node and these phantom pains we didn't even know were connected. Thought they were growing pains, to being in a wheelchair. So that was within about a 2-week period of time, having fevers and nausea and lots of severe pain. Couldn't walk very far. Hobbled up the stairs. So he's just sitting there doing his thing.
Yeah, sitting there. I don't know if I'd want to be standing at that time. Well, Mom and Dad came downstairs. I was in the basement. They came downstairs and they decided that now was the time that they broke the news to me that I had cancer. So I can't exactly remember, since this is 3 years ago, I can't exactly remember how the interaction went. I think they first asked me if I knew what cancer was. And when I said, yeah, it's a deadly disease, at that time I didn't even know that there are multiple types of cancer.
I don't think you said that.
I didn't?
I don't think so. I think you just said, yeah, kind of. I've heard of it.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
I think you asked afterwards, and you asked,
do I have cancer?
Yeah, is that what I have?
And they're like, yes, you do. I guess I think I sat there not knowing what to say or do.
But he did say what he said was, I don't want that. We didn't want him to have it, of course. Mm-hmm. That was tough. I think it was pretty short. It was awkward for all of us. It was heartbreaking for all of us. And yeah, and I don't think we talked a lot about it again right then. I think that occasionally, I don't remember if it was right then or sometime after, where he asked, can people die from cancer? And
I thought I already knew the answer to that one.
I think that you asked anyway. Mm-hmm. And, of course we said, yeah, people can. But we're going to go through the treatments and see what we can do. I don't remember exactly how we answered that, but but yeah. How did you feel, Spencer? Like when you had those thoughts, like people die from cancer?
Well, I was definitely scared. Yeah, no doubt. My first thought would be, will I survive this, though? what happened to me.
Of course.
I had no idea what type of cancer it was, how bad it was, how much of that cancer was in my body. So
So so let me talk about that really quickly. How much cancer was in his body, and then Spencer, I want to ask you a follow up question, which just escaped my mind. Hopefully, I'll remember it.
mhm.
Um, so so Spencer, neuroblastoma is really an aggressive, fast growing cancer. Oh, I was going to ask you, Spencer, what do you understand about neuroblastoma now in terms of how bad it is or whatever? Okay, so think about that while I talk about how much cancer you had. So Spencer, we know it was in his lymph system. However, it didn't start there. Um, neuroblastoma is a solid tumor cancer. So he had a solid tumor somewhere, and it was on his left adrenal. It was eventually resected or taken out through surgery along with his left adrenal. Um, Thankfully, it was a pretty straightforward one. Sometimes they can be very complicated. The neuroblastoma tumors are typically found on an adrenal, but sometimes on the spine. Um, he also had cancer in his bones, which is why his bones hurt, and in his bone marrow. So there was a solid tumor, there was the lymph system, the bone, and the bone marrow. And the bone and the bone marrow are considered different systems for this when it comes to cancer. Okay, so Spencer, what do you understand today? What do you understand now about neuroblastoma and
Hmm. Well, I think you told me once that neuroblastoma is a stage 4 cancer, and stage 4
almost
is,
always?
yeah, almost always. I think that's supposed to be the worst kind of stage, isn't it?
Yeah,
Stage 4,
yeah,
the hardest.
yeah. Because stage 4 is it's metastatic. It's in more than one system,
Mm-hmm.
and with neuroblastoma, if you're over the age of 18 months, you're automatically in stage 4,
Mm.
whether it's in one body system or more. From what I understand, I could be a little bit wrong on that, but I think that just by virtue of being 18 months or older, you're automatically high risk neuroblastoma.
I understand that it's a very dangerous type of cancer if it's not treated right away. And doesn't it break down the nerves? Or I know that all cancer spreads extremely quickly.
Not all cancer spreads extremely quickly.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay, the type I have does. They duplicate, and that just makes it hard to get rid of them. But I've figured out that it's definitely possible to get rid of them. And what else do I know of metastatic neuroblastoma? Honestly, I don't know how much there is to know. Probably a lot. And probably I'm just not a great listener, so I haven't learned everything that I should.
Well, and maybe there are things you don't want to know. I don't know. That's one of the things that I wonder sometimes is how much Spencer should know or how much he wants to know. Spencer's very positive. He has a very strong mind and a very positive mind, and I think that that's a good thing. And he when he was diagnosed, he just knew he was going to get better. And when he relapsed, he just knew he was going to get better. And I think that that's important. And I think that that's um, a big part of the battle, actually, is being able to have that hope and that positive mindset around it. And, there are some things about neuroblastoma that um, are difficult and that could change that positive mindset. So, so of course, I wonder how much to say or how much he really needs to know. Um,
Yeah, I don't even know everything, and I'm the one that
I'm sh-
has this type of cancer.
I'm sure I don't know everything too, but we do know, and I'm pretty sure Spencer knows that relapse is common.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his he is on a relapse
It's definitely not as scary the second time.
because you've been through it and you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is already going to be a pretty long video, so I'll just answer one more question. It's pretty short. So, it was how old I am. And I, at this present moment, am 16 years old, and I was diagnosed when I was 12, right before I was turning 13. So, I've had this for a bit over 3 years. And that pretty much answers that question, unless there's anything else you want me to say about it.
I think that's good. I don't know how much more you can say about how old you are.
That's true.
He looks older sometimes. I think he's a big boy. I guess maybe I always have more to say, but yeah, he's 16. He's pretty tall, um, especially for somebody with neuroblastoma. And it was his advantage and a blessing that he grew so quickly. He was always really tall for his age. And kids with neuroblastoma often don't get very tall when they get it when they're babies or when they're little because sometimes the radiation will stunt the growth. So we didn't have to worry about that with Spencer. How tall are you, Spencer?
I think I'm 5'10".
Yeah. And I thought he'd probably get past 6 feet. I don't know whether he's going to grow much more, but he did a lot of growing by the time he was 12, and he hasn't grown a whole lot since then. Probably a few inches.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 16.
Mm-hmm. And I think this video is already pretty long, so if there's anything else you want to add, I think I'm done with what I wanted to say.
I will refrain. We can answer more questions another time.
Sounds good. I don't know when the next video will be out, but I will take a look at these questions and see what else I need to answer. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for inviting me.